Hey, welcome back to another video. I am Ramona, still Ramona. Probably will continue to be Ramona for quite a while. This video is more on the witchcraft one, and it's talking about what was your first sign from a deity reaching out to you. One gorgeous autumn day, I was walking in my garden. I was suddenly given a vision. It was a snow globe with a bright, sparkling city within. Suddenly, the snow globe turned over and the city turned to black, decayed, burned-out ruins. I sensed a voice say, "Something you thought to be good is in fact inherently evil." For some reason, this didn't faze me, and I went about my business. That night, I stumbled down an internet rabbit hole and woke up. You see, I was born into a pseudo-Christian cult. They say Jehovah's Witness. No, I'm not. This is their own opinion. I'm not saying anything. To be exact, as high control groups do, they constantly preach that one must look only to their publications for answers, because everyone else lies about them. While surely this sounds sus to you, brainwashing is a real thing, so I've never had anywhere else to look. But that night, something made me start to look, and one YouTube video after another tore down all of my indoctrination in a matter of about 7 hours. I was out and I was free. At that time, I didn't even think there was a vision of where that vision may have originated. Within a few weeks, I had turned to paganism because I had always secretly had a huge crush on paganism, always collected crystals, enjoyed mantra chantings and meditation, etc. One day, I picked up an opal in my collection, and it just flooded me with love and thoughts. My next steps, advice on how to be the best version of myself. She told me that she was glad to finally be able to commune with me. This encounter opened my heart in a huge way, as the cult keeps a person very superficial and unable to look into oneself or develop self-awareness. This goddess did not reveal her name to me at that time. A little later, Aphrodite came to me and helped me cultivate joy and tear down some of the sexual repression endemic of the cult. She came to me as bubbly and fabulous and just like a true BFF. I asked her what this vision was, and she told me that it was Hecate who had given me the vision and encouraged me to reach out to her because Hecate had been looking forward to working with me as well. I asked Aphrodite about the goddess who spoke from the opal, and she told me that she would reveal her identity to me at her own leisure, and I was sure to meditate with the opal and continue my relationship with this goddess. And after about 3 sessions, she did reveal her name to me. Right now, I'm holding the opal, and she's saying, "Don't you dare out me on Reddit." Laugh out loud. These 3 have become my triple goddesses, my confidants, and my advisors and guides. They are beautiful and beloved to me, and infinitely more loving and helpful than Jehovah. Yes, yes, a million times yes. I come from a strict Catholic background, so I totally get it. I feel so much better and free now. Aphrodite is really amazing, and I love reading about other people's experiences with her. I've been feeling a slight pull to Hecate as well. I shall see if she makes her presence known. She's not the subtle type, so I'll probably be noticeable when and if she does. Not a deity exactly, but one of the Gosha. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. At the space of a couple of weeks, I saw and heard more owls than I had in my entire life before that. I kept hearing owls regularly, even when I moved to a different town, roughly 100 miles away from the one I grew up in. Sorry. And at one point, even one came upon an owl sitting in the middle of the night. I eventually took the hint and contacted Prince Stalis. Laugh out loud. I was only recently clued in that Hermes was reaching out to me and had been for a while. About a week ago, I had a dream that I was in a room with a bunch of other people, and next to me was an attendant in an area filled with just tons of stuff. I asked the attendant what I was meant to be doing, and she told me to clear the area, so I asked her how she wanted me to do that. And she just gave me this look and said, "By doing what you're already doing." I didn't get what she was talking about, so I asked again. She looked pretty exasperated, like, "I told you already. Just keep doing what you're already doing." So I told her fine and started doing my usual thing, which somehow started clearing the area, even though I wasn't touching it at all. After some of it was cleared away, people started coming up to me and telling me how happy Hermes would be with my work and how much he liked what I was doing. Literally everyone mentioned Hermes and him working for me. Or me working for him, sorry. I asked a couple of people in the room if they were there to work for anyone, and each one told me the name of a different Greek god, and it would usually finish with, "just like you're doing here on behalf of Hermes," or something. When I woke up, I looked up things to do with Hermes and all that corresponded with him, and found that a lot of things I had done within the last couple of months had something to do with Hermes. Getting yellow or gold things, even though I prefer blue, collecting some coins and dice sets, making a this is difficult. Dia de Muertos, Ofinda, to connect with my ancestors, even though it's been over a decade since I last made one, and seeing feathers and that I mistook for some air signs all over the place, to name a few. Interest that I've had all my life relating to him, and it even dawned on me that whenever I do a tarot reading for myself, Mercury would always make an appearance. All of a sudden, the attendant saying, just keep doing what you're already doing, made a lot of sense. Even the day I chose to devote to magical studies relates to Hermes. Basically, I had to be smacked in the face with a handful of times before I realized what was going on. I'm glad he wants to work with me also, that he's been so patient. He's really been playing the long game with me. That's so cool how he kept giving hints and breadcrumbs over time. I've noticed that a lot of Greek pantheons are not reluctant to initiate contact, especially via dreams. I would love a deity, but I'm too much of a baby witch, I think. Don't worry, one will most likely choose you when you least expect it. Just keep reading up on the different pantheons, and you'll be in a better place to recognize the subtle and not so subtle signs they're sending your way. Or when you feel comfortable, set up an altar and try reaching out to one of your choices. That worst that can happen is no response. I was skeptical throughout the whole thing until the last sign. I usually have a flock of crows visit me a couple of times a year. It's been that way since I was a teen, and at first I thought crows were a warning sign. They were there before my first 2 car accidents. Then I realized they were just coming to communicate. I had a hard time figuring out what they were trying to tell me, though. So the first was a bunch of crows in my front yard. The second was a few days later with a massive stick, about as tall as me, and outer bark stripped off so it was smooth, in front of a car in a parking lot. After asking around, it looked out to be a cottonwood stick, a type of poplar tree. The third instance, I had brought a new cauldron. It came with soy wax in it and crystals in the wax. The person used dried flowers and the packaging to protect it in shipment. I'm a cheapo and collected it in a dish to use as potpourri. While collecting it, I nearly cut myself on some glass. I dug around to collect all the glass I could find, and while doing so, I found little pieces of black tourmaline. Yeah, easy for you to say. I guess they're a little bottle as a gift with purchase. I fished all the pieces of the black Coraline. Yeah. All at this point, I did a little research and landed on Hades as the one that may have been contacting me, which is funny because all this time I was thinking with my crows, I thought that it would have been Odin. I asked him to confirm if it was just him, just in case. The next day, I nearly missed being in a 5-car pileup on the highway. The 4 cars behind me had collided with one another, and I felt that the near miss was him giving me that indication I was asking for. I would have thought Morgan at some point. That's exactly who I thought at the beginning. It seems like Hades made himself loud and clear towards you in the end, though. An awesome deity to have on your side. The Morgan would have fit more with my outward desires for sure, but I always wanted to work with a female deity since I adamantly request things like female doctors, therapists, counselors, and the like. Hades has been understanding and patient, though, so I'm glad to have this opportunity. Odin showed me his Valknut symbol during the meditation. I wasn't asking to meet him. He just kind of walked in and said, hello. Amazing. We both lucked out and were chosen by deity rather than having to do the choosing. It was really an awesome experience for sure. For me, it was a feeling like someone was in my room, constantly images of my head of a woman with long, white, shining hair being near me, and then finally a dream of me dancing naked under the moon. The morning after I did some intensive tarot readings and questionings, and since then I have been working with Celine. Also, another one to mention, I was pretty sure was Freyja, was reaching out to me, and I felt weird having another deity reach from a completely different pantheon than Celine, and also since it was pretty soon afterward. After doing a tarot reading and asking Celine, her pretty much saying through the cards, you got to figure out on your own, hun, I just pretty much said, if it's not a trickster, prove it. Send me something that I know is deity. Send me something that I know it's Freyja. A bit bold, I know. I just wanted to be 100% sure, and I wanted something physical, and I did thank her for her heavily afterwards. The next day, I found a hawk's feather under a tree I regularly sit at under my cat laying next to it, and had the strongest urge to read my book on runes. It was ridiculous. Oh, Celine, and wonderful yet often forgotten goddess. Yeah, Freyja is certainly not the subtle type. Even though she's not my primary goddess, she has been great working with me as more of an acquaintance, and didn't mind stepping aside as a more subtle friendship after Aphrodite started being Aphrodite. Once while walking from work, 2 guys tried to rob me with knives, and the Holy Spirit audibly whispered into my ear to climb off the curb and walk the other way. I got around and nothing happened to me. Before I got to know Jesus, I used to have interactions with demons in my sleep, and this came as a result of playing with psychedelic drugs. They will come and ask you questions in a lucid state in your sleep, and will feel your presence. They will also come and teach you stuff. All these spirits are evil, and if you stop following their instructions, then they will torment you eventually. This led me to turn to Jesus. Each entity has a sound or smell in their voice. Sometimes you can feel their intentions. The Holy Spirit of God has a unique sound, always gentle with the huge amounts of authority like no other. This is just my opinion. Please don't bash me. Just wanted to share. And they replied with, thank you for sharing your experience. Though I'm a bit confused why you're choosing to follow this subreddit when it contradicts your core beliefs. I have nothing against other people's religions. If you feel as though the Holy Spirit is for you, then I'm happy that you found the correct path for you. I follow this sub because I have friends who are into witchcraft and I would like to understand them and help them, and also because I love to care dearly for everyone here. Thanks for commenting. Apollo and his crows. Oh my god, I still see them everywhere. I definitely had signs my entire life, and what was Northern Germanic, Anglo-Saxon, Norse religions being so convoluted, it was difficult for them to break through. But basically, I believe I'm called to be a magic worker from Northern traditions. Most literature calls all of them vulvas. Vulvas, as in the car, not the other female thing. I'm also toying with the term spacen, as vulva is a predominantly female occupation and I'm transmasculine. I haven't settled on the term yet, so I'm also convinced that becoming a vulva, this just sounds wrong saying it like this, is probably a way for ancient transgender people to occupy differing gender roles in ancient Northern Europe. Mostly, I was seeing the souls in rocks and getting gifts of feathers along my path. I had a prized one as a child that was a blue jay tail feather. For a long while as a teen, I tried to follow Freya, as I tried and failed to embrace femininity, before giving up on pinning down a solid sense of spirituality for a while. It wasn't until recently, and I'm further along in my transition, that I've come to understand myself as a vessel for Odin's gifts to man, specifically in his realm as a god of artists, poets, scholars, and a bestower of divine inspiration. It happened on a walk in the woods with friends where I definitely fucked around and found out that another god I was looking into, Freyr, was not interested in me at all. Quite a few rune readings and pendulum clarifications later, plus a health scare in the family, and I offered my services to him. He's been a bit of a brat ever since, and slowly we were bridging the cultural gap between ancient and modern norms. He still regularly threatens my eyesight when I need to refresh offerings or do something, but that it is what it is. As far as specific signs, I've always been gifted with feathers in my path, and I've always known them as a sign, just not their meaning or source. I now know them to be the final attempt to get my attention and to being myself more in tune with subtler signals. In 2018 or 19 or so, I found a few crow feathers in my path at work, and subsequently kept finding feathers while at work. Feathers outside while cleaning or taking out the trash, feathers in the grass surrounding the property, feathers while I was out on my runs, even down feathers that were tracked inside the store. I think at the time I would find at least half the days I was at work, maybe half of those were inside while I was sweeping the sales floor. And my store was one of those entryways with 2 sets of doors to help with the AC bill. Shortly after making my deal that I'd followed him if he'd kept a family member safe, then we went to the hospital. Before I actually figured out how to give offerings in an acceptable way, I also was the recipient of a nasty eye infection. Trash juice that didn't even hit my eye just landed on my cheek, and that was the start of receiving ocular trauma as a kick in the pants to get my shit together. Usually, it's to refresh offerings to get back to work and creative pursuits when I've been quite lazy for a while. But that's the nature of Odin. He doesn't sugarcoat things. As mentioned, I've had discussions with him that doing any other major damage is counterproductive, and those seem to have sunk in, but it certainly didn't keep orange juice out of my aisle while pouring a glass. I'm still figuring out exactly how to worship, to what extent I want and need to follow the path of a vulva, and what that means in a modern context. I'm partially hindered by my space constriction as I live with family, so no outdoor altars to sprinkle feral blood offerings, and partially for the lack of record and potential twisting of the few surviving records by those interpreting them. But I found a good balance, I think, and it needn't be said, but I will clarify anyway. I do not associate with white supremacists or neo-Nazis, so don't bring that shit here as you reply to my thread. Thank you for sharing. Yes, it seems as though Odin is a great match for you. I too wish the neo-Nazis and Norse pagan community would just leave and stop trying to ruin what was already a fragile system. A minority religion with most of the historical texts lost to history. Dr. Jackson Crawford on YouTube has been one of my sources for learning more about Norse mythology. It fascinates me that even though not my primary pantheon, have you reached out to Freya? She has been friendly to me, and vulva work falls within her realm as well. I know some males who use the term seer or vulva, and so it's personal preference when it comes to doing so. Apologies if I did come off as aggressive with my last sentiment there, but I sometimes feel it necessary to be open online about being an LGBT follower of Odin. There's lots of folks who would get aggressive about that, so I do too at first. I definitely have a working relationship with Freya, Thor, and Fur, while or for that matter, most of other deities in the pantheon. None of them or Odin are specifically against it, but it definitely feels like one of those one parent likes me more than the other situations, if that makes any sense. I have a feeling I may find more common ground with her once I have an outdoor space to give offerings, and if I ever truly figure out my calling towards magical workings. But for now, she seems content to watch and offer her help only when needed. I appreciate the reference, too. I'll have to check out the channel, see if there's anything worthwhile for my own practice. I love finding information from actual scholars, as it bypasses most of the issues with those unsavory types mentioned earlier. I get what you mean about Freya. She's the same way with me. Crawford is purely an academic scholar and actually never disclosed his real religion, but his vast knowledge of historical information on Norse mythology is gold. He has a doctorate degree in Norse mythology, and the Old Norse language is considered to go for one of the Old Norse language. Disney even contacted him to get translations for the Disney movie Frozen. And I see he recently posted about Odin's ravens. So there you go. Extra information. My pendulum board spelled Ashura, and 10 days later I saw that it was the holy day. It was the holiday Ashura in my phone. Ashura can be seen a couple of different ways from a couple of different religions, but I've never heard the word until my board spelled it out, and now it's everywhere. I would love to find out what that meaning was behind that from whatever deity is being responsible for that. A pendulum is usually not the first choice of means of communication about an Abrahamic religion. I don't even know what's going on. I'm just riding the wave. I can't say that it was the first sign, but I feel like Freya has been trying to reach out to me for a very long time. I was just super oblivious to all of her signs, apparently. I finally clued in this past late summer. I've been encountering a lot of wild rabbits and deer. Actually had a deer wander into our backyard and just lay down and stare at me. For the record, I live in a pretty residential area. We don't often get deer in our area. I opened communication with her, asking if she was trying to reach me. Oh boy, was she ever. I felt this odd tingling sensation throughout my body, and just burst into tears. I felt her warmth, her love, and it was very overpowering. I'm not an emotional person by any means, so this really just overwhelmed me. I've also had Loki contact me. He was a little more obvious. Spiders everywhere. I hate them, like severe phobia. Or I used to. Once I clued it in that it was him, I tried not to freak out as much. And instead of begging my hubby to squish and dispose of them, I trapped them and he transported them outside. Loki has definitely been trying to get me some work on my shadow self, which I'm begrudgingly doing. He's helping me to face the tough shit. And the last one is, I need help. I think I am pretty sure Loki is trying to contact me. And considering I had no idea who Loki was or what deity he was until 3 weeks ago, I don't know what to do. Signs, I think, are signs so far. Odd dream of sex art involved horse hit a man with my car who came out of nowhere and left my mirror broken, looking like a spider or dragonfly. Side note, I hit his arm and the man was still walking down the road when I turned around. Don't speak English when cops arrived. Wi-Fi near my boyfriend's house is Loki. My art name is painted was Loki, spelled differently. Picking up at a random because of my initials, feeling like someone is always there knocking on my cat, but nobody is nearby. Did a draw, and the identifier to try and figure this out was the Fool. Laugh out loud, good one. So, help, what do I do? I don't know, because I don't contact these deities. But hopefully someone will be able to help you. Maybe somebody here in the comments can offer something. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. And let me know if you do or if you don't. If you don't, that's okay too. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do the things. And we'll check you out on another video. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate my subscribers, my listeners. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.